I'm Tim Constantine. It's political season, silly season. 2024 is upon us. We know it's going to be Joe Biden, maybe. We know it's going to be Donald Trump. We know it's going to be Kamala Harris running with Joe Biden. But who's going to be the vice president on the Donald Trump side of the ticket? Joining me to talk about exactly that, David Bozell. David, how are you?
Good, Tim. How are you?
I'm doing very well. What do you think? There are a number of names floated out there.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I've got who I want, and there's a couple of dark horses that have not been mentioned, and sort of there's this top 10 that are going around social media primarily. I would like to see Congressman Byron Donalds out of Naples. I think he's articulate on the economy. He's severely underutilized in the House. I'd like to see him get out of the House. I'd like to see a new voice, a new face of Republican politics.
New generation,
young guy. I think the president needs to consider somebody young and experienced, if you can find it, that combination. The pick for vice president has very little to do with whether President Trump will win the race. It has everything to do with setting up 2028. And this person will have a leg up in 2028. And I would like to see Byron Donalds get tapped for that. Dark horse candidate that's not being talked about a lot is Devin Nunes. He runs Trump's media group, again, former member of Congress, so he knows that world. But there's obviously a lot of confidence that the president has expressed in Devin to run run Truth Social and get that off the ground. And and he has experience with all the intel issues that the president has always railed against. So he's a little bit of a dark horse candidate for me.
Let me run down a list of first who I think it will not be. Sadly, Byron Donalds, it will not be. Marco Rubio, it will not be. Ron DeSantis, it will not be. Constitutionally, you are not allowed to have two people from the same state. Donald Trump would have to transfer to somewhere else, or one of them.
My only counter to
that,
Tim, my only counter is Dick Cheney had that issue with W, moved out of Texas in October, and I just think if there's a will, there's a way. Byron Donalds is from Brooklyn. If I'm President Trump, I'm telling the congressman, get out of this. Go find another place.
Would have to resign his seat.
He would have to resign his seat, but now I don't like it Rubio for that reason, because resigning a Senate seat is perilous, and it's quite risky. And the same thing for DeSantis.
I will tell you some people I would like to see. Oh, it will also on the not list. It will not be Kristi Noem. Who I'd like to see is, but I don't think will be selected, Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee would be a great vice president, and has a great relationship with President Trump and would bring a lot to the ticket, I think. I think my who I like, but also who I think is the most likely choice. If I had chips and I had to bet, I'd say Tim Scott. He has been a great surrogate out there for the president. He brings a lot to the ticket. One of the things the Democrats did very effectively in the 2020 election, using the George Floyd issue, they created a dog whistle effect, where if you talked Donald Trump, you were talking racism. And it's not accurate, but they instilled that belief in a big chunk of America, where even conservative Black Americans thought they weren't so sure about Trump. Was he racist? And you completely erase that. And if you take that away, Donald Trump takes another 18 or 20 points of the Black community, which makes it very difficult for the Democrats to win. So I think Tim Scott's really smart. He's ready to be president on day one. He brings a lot to the ticket. He's a good campaigner, and he takes that issue away. So
I agree, Tim. If I had to bet, I would probably bet Senator Scott. My only reservation is he had 0.0 in the primary. Okay, I'm not a fan of guys who get 0.0 in the primary. But more specifically, his performances during the debates were really quite poor. Sometimes he didn't realize that he was there, and the viewer forgot that he was there because he rarely interjected himself. If He's got to improve that skill set against Kamala Harris.
I'm going to give you a weird analogy. And I use music and rock and roll for analogies for everything. But when you have a hard rock band, could be Kiss, could be Nazareth, could be anybody, they always slide one or two slow songs just to balance out the album, because you can't bang, 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 bang for 10 songs. You got to breathe at some point. Tim Scott is the slow song to Donald Trump. Donald Trump bangs and bangs and bangs and bangs. And then you have this very gentle, polite, genuine man who is offsetting that. And the vice president in the big picture is the equivalent of one or two songs on the album.
Right.
And so I think Tim Scott creates a unique balance in that process.
I totally get that. The number one job of the vice president candidate is to not upstage the number one. And I don't think Tim Scott is at any risk of upstaging President Trump. I mean, very few people could, but Tim Scott's not going to be that guy. So again, check that box. So there's a lot. Look, I agree politically. I agree visually. How that would look. I agree with the need of the Republican Party to present a different visual as to what they stand for and whom they represent, and essentially presenting a more inclusive presentation out there to the public eye. So Tim Scott, checks that box.
Final question, and that is, this process gets stretched out, and there's a little teaser to the people of the Dakotas, or there's a little teaser to Ohio, and there's always, ooh, so-and-so. Could be Abbott out of Texas. It won't be. But, there's always that consideration. How long will Donald Trump wait to announce who it is going to be?
As long as humanly possible. I mean, he'll probably call the printing vendors and say, how long can I wait to drop the name on the convention floor? And they'll say, Mr. President, 7 days, and that'll be it. And they'll probably do an event the weekend before the convention so they can ride into the convention with that kind of momentum. But he'll ride this out. It's good speculation. You get every PR firm in the country representing any potential VP pick is going to be leaking their client's name to the press just to get their client's name in the press. And that's part of the game.
For America, he is David Bozell. I'm Tim Constantine from the Washington Times. Thank you.